Hi, this is Matt Kendall once again. Today I've got Shelly, who's based out in California. Shelly did the IEMT training in, was it January?
Yes.
January 1, yeah. So just a couple of months ago, it's now March the something. So we're just doing this recording now. Well, we've just done her feedback session. So that's where we look through the case studies that she's provided. And now she can join the association, and I can now officially certify her as a practitioner of IEMT. So Shelly, how are we doing? Because it's very early over there, isn't it, at the moment?
It is 8:54 in the morning. Not too early, not as early as when we did our training.
That is true. So some people go, 9:30 early to start. What time was it when you were starting the course?
1:30 in the morning.
1:30 in the morning. So that's dedication, that's commitment right there. So tell us a little bit about your background. I can see your certificates and stuff behind you, but what's your background in therapy?
So I've been a life coach for many years. And then 3 years ago, I went to hypnotherapy school. And a year and a half ago, I became certified as a clinical hypnotherapist. And so now I work at a wellness center, seeing clients doing, life coaching and clinical hypnotherapy.
And what type of clients do you usually work with? What's your standard client?
I see a lot of clients right now, especially with what we've been through in the pandemic. I see a ton of anxiety, panic. That's pretty much everyone I see. But I also see a lot of fears and phobias.
Cool.
And I'm finding that, I see driving fear, driving phobia, needle phobia, flying, fears of flying, stuff like that.
Cool. So how did you hear about IEMT, and what made you decide to come and do the training at this crazy hour of the night?
I heard it from a friend of mine from hypnotherapy school, and she had been trained by you. Her name's Lori.
Yes.
And so I went to her house. She said, "I just learned this new modality. You're going to love it." Because she knows, we love these new little tricks and tools. So I went to her house and she did a practice on me, and I was completely blown away. I couldn't imagine that with a couple waves of following her fingers, a rather triggering memory that lives in me kind of washed away. And I thought, "You've got to be kidding me." And she said, she gave me your name and email. And it was just, I didn't need any convincing. I signed up. I signed up immediately. Yeah.
And I think that's what it is that, I don't really have a sales process. It's like, if you want to do it, it's there. That's it, really, because once you've experienced it, people are like, well, yeah, of course I want to do that, And so you did it a couple of months ago. You already had a friend already been through it. In fact, Laurie was on my event last night, actually, another Californian. So I send you out all the materials a week or so beforehand, so you can familiarize yourself. Then it's a 2-day course. I then give you all the aftercare stuff. So what did you think about the training? Go.
I thought the training was fantastic. And I have to tell you, you have to put this in context. I was getting up at 1:30 in the morning. I stayed up for 2 nights in a row from 1:30 in the morning, till 9 o'clock or something. And so that was to be able to stay up and to follow along, the material had to be interesting and had to be. So there wasn't a time that, I kind of thought, oh my gosh, how am I doing this? This is, what did I get myself into, and just wanting to go upstairs and go back to bed. I was completely riveted by this information, and it had my attention the whole time. It didn't bother me at all that I had given up this amount of time and that was doing crazy things to my sleep schedule. I was thrilled for the opportunity to learn this information. And now I would do it again. It was, and people, I've told other people about it. They go, "What? You sit up all night, 2 nights in a row?" I said, "I did." But I have to tell you, the information was so fascinating. And I really love the way you broke it up into kind of smaller chunks, where it wasn't 3 hours of you lecturing and I wanting to it was broken into smaller pieces, and it was explained very clearly. And then there was time to practice, and it all flowed really easily to where it was easy to digest.
Yeah, that's what I tried to do. So I basically, because obviously I send you some videos to watch. I send you the manual so you can read the manual in advance. Before, when I used to do trainings, they'd arrive and I'd be like, right, I'd literally just read a manual to them, really. That's what I was doing. So
Right.
now you have the manual in advance, and I do a presentation of the manual, well, very, very close to it. So every module that we have, like the first hour or so is theory, it's the patterns of chronicity. But then we get into the actual techniques that we use, because it's a suite of techniques that we have. You know, we have the simple and complex of the kinesthetics, the episodic time, the PSACs, the physiological state accessing cues, the PTSD model, the simple and complex of the identities, and I think that's it. I've done this PSAC. So every one of these has, pretty much every one of these has an explanation to what it is. Then I'll do a demonstration with somebody in the class. Then you'll go into your own private room to do, you know, the work, the exercise, and then we come back and basically review to see how things were, any questions, share any results, and then we move on. And that's the idea: is everything I do in day one is what you learn, is what you do in session one, and everything you learn in day two is what you do in session two. So you went through, it's a big group, wasn't it? It was like 16 people in the group. So it's quite a big group that we did, which was cool. And with people from all over the world. So apart from your experience with Laurie, you've not obviously seen much of this before, but you've obviously trained in hypnotherapy. So how different was this approach to hypnotherapy and other therapies that you've studied?
So it reminds me a bit of techniques that I know in NLP, you know? So I feel like there's a flavor of some NLP type stuff in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also like emotional freedom technique, EFT tapping. I feel like sort of a flavor of that in there. It just feels like it fits into stuff that I've been trained in before. So it just kind of makes sense. I was able to like, oh, I get it. I understand what's going on here. So it wasn't completely something totally new to me in terms of it's got a lot of similarities to those things as well.
And when you went into the little breakout rooms,
Mhm.
how did you find using the techniques, and what kind of things did you witness people experiencing?
It was very helpful. You know, what was interesting was that as much as I watched all your videos beforehand and I see you doing this, when you do it for the first time on a screen, the very first time I did it, I didn't know how to, I thought, why is it so hard? I'm going like this. And other people were doing this. And I'm like, you have to move your hands up. I can't even see your hands. So it was really, and I thought, why is this so hard to figure out where to move? But now you know how to do it and the brain knows how to do it. It's quite simple. But that was one of the things that really stood out in the very beginning, not just me, but the other people I was working with. We're kind of going like this, and this is the pattern. And I'm like, okay, I can't see what the hell you're doing. So it was a little bit that. So that was very interesting for us all to kind of get used to how this feels and seeing it in a safe space.
Exactly. And this is why we practice, and this is why we do a lot of practical. So probably at least half of the course is spent in those rooms practicing on particular things. I don't just go, right, go do something for an hour, I'll see you then. So it's like, go do this very particular thing, and then we'll keep on reviewing it. And so what kind of results and stuff did you sort of see with the other people that you were working with? Were you surprised on how well it worked? And
I felt it was surprising, especially because, doing something remotely. I do. I work with most of my clients in person. I do see most of my clients. I do have virtual sessions, but most people I do see in person. And it was a little like, okay, are you really following? Because I can't completely see your eyes as well from here, as I might be able to in person. So I thought, wow, it is working. You can do it, so that was nice to experience, because I think it just gave me that little boost of confidence that it was like, no, this is working. This says you can do this. I was able to experience it with, with the person doing it on me. And, and I'm sure I hope they were truthful that they were able to experience it with me practicing on them. So it was good.
Cool. So we did the 2 days. Then afterwards, I send you out the whole aftercare package. And then obviously I'm around quite a lot. I used to be on Facebook. It'll come back to me. It'll return. I'm in Facebook jail. Obviously, there's the WhatsApp group and everything like that as well. And then you're going to do your case studies. So what was it like taking it from the virtual classroom to actually working with people themselves? What was that like?
It was great. You know, I really am impressed. I have to compliment you as well for all of the support that you provide in the after training, through the WhatsApp group, through, you know, emailing all of the materials. I
Mm.
mean, every single thing that we needed. So I felt very supported. So when I went into the case study, I felt prepared. I
Mm.
felt completely ready. You had sent along, you know, sample case studies in order to
Yeah.
follow the, you know, the template type thing. So it was quite simple to be able to just kind of follow in
Mm.
you know, the lead that you had set out. And I felt quite comfortable. It was great. They both went really well. I think I learned a lot from each.
Yeah.
I kind of left a little notes for me too. You know, we discussed today when we went over our things, and you helped cleared up some questions that I had, which was great. But for the most part, I felt quite successful. Both of the clients that I worked with, we had good results. I noticed them shifting from session one to session two, showing up a little bit lighter, a little bit brighter, a little taller. The
Mm.
next session, a little bit more kind of, there's more buy-in the second session because
Yes.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
first session worked well. And so now second session, they were a little bit more open and even, you know, excited to come to this session. Like, wow,
I know, and that's the thing. It's not, you don't usually have clients that are excited to go for therapy,
yeah,
especially. And again, I do think talking therapy and counseling really has its place, but it also can be very re-traumatizing if you're just talking about the thing that happened. In
yeah,
IMT, you don't really need to talk about much content at all,
no,
really, in order to
no.
provide a lot
And
of
I'll
help.
tell you, that's probably one of my favorite things about it.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think people, that's why I think it's appealing to a lot of other people who
Mm.
wants to go into recalling that traumatic episode, reliving it,
Yeah.
because when you go into the story, you do relive it,
Yeah.
you know. And that's what's I think so brilliant about this technique, is we're really not reliving it. We're just bringing up that point in time when you felt that trigger and just holding it, not reliving it, just, you know, and then kind of applying the pattern.
Yeah, and that's exactly. Now the thing is, they are reliving it until they've been through the IMT, and then they can generally talk about it, but
Right.
from a different perspective and a very
Yeah.
matter of fact. Oh, this is what
Yeah.
happened, and they will often get a lot of that, and they get a lot of realizations, and they get to see the bigger picture, and they realize why they are the way that they are, and
Mhm.
now it gives them that opportunity to actually change who they are
Yeah.
without going up against all this resilience, basically, you know, so all this sort of double think and everything, you know, sort of all the cognitive dissonance of why can't I do this? So it's like, well, now I know who can squash these emotions, so you can now just kind of move forward. When you worked with the clients, were they a bit surprised on how effective it was?
They were surprised. Everyone that I've used this is,
Mm.
you know, especially even just a simple pattern, just on friends or people, it's always, you know, what?
Yeah.
Wow. Whoa. Whoa. Wow. Wow. I can't, wow, what happened?
It is. It's very, say it takes what, 20, 30 seconds or something,
Yeah.
very long-term therapy. So you did your case studies. So let me ask you, and you've worked with other people as well, haven't you? You've sort of
I
used
have.
it bits on other people. And how's that been working with the other people as well? What kind of things have you worked with? You said you were talking about the driving phobia. So
Yeah.
just give us some examples of some of the stuff that you've done as well
Yeah.
with people.
So there are two cases in particular that come to mind. I had working with fears and phobias, and I had a client come to me with a driving phobia. She was afraid of driving at night. She'd seen
Mm.
a drunk driver at night, and then all of a sudden now she doesn't want to drive at night.
Yeah.
And so I said to her, you know, can you recall that memory of seeing that drunk driver? She said, so clearly. Great, right?
Mm.
Went back into that memory, and we just applied the simple pattern 2 times. It really was 2 times, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden it just started fading away, washing away. And I asked her, you know, how does it feel? Do you still feel afraid now? And you think about that memory and you think about it, and it was like, no, she can't even access it, you know. So then we kind of just reframed her fear of driving. Do you still feel like you're afraid of driving? And it was like, no. If almost she can't recall the most triggering thing that made her afraid, then why would she be afraid now? You know? And then just kept offering her the suggestion that the harder you try and even be afraid, the more you find you can't. The more you
I do that.
no longer exists, you know, that kind of post-hypnotic suggestion. And I did it with her, and I did it with another client who was afraid of needles and doctors. And she was going the very next day for a very intense treatment with her doctor that involved needles, and she did brilliantly. We completely went back to the memory of when she first remembered being afraid of the needles, when she first remembered being afraid of the doctors, applied the simple pattern very quickly within a few moments, really only a couple times through each. She felt completely that she could not recall those events, those triggering events. And it's like we pulled the root out, you know, of that fear. Everything collapsed. And she went to her session the next day, wasn't afraid, texted me, told me how brilliantly he did. Even her mom called me and said she couldn't believe it. So I think, wow, this is fantastic. Yes.
And that's what I really like, tangible results, not just, and I don't like, there's a lot of, as you know, in a lot of, not necessarily clinical, but in a lot of other hypnotherapy and NLP, it's right, we've got 10 minutes left of the session, let's make the client feel good.
Yeah.
And let's just turn those feelings into a color and pump it up and do a firewalk or something. And you know, so it gets those people really kind of charged up. And in IEMT, it's not about that at all. We don't do any positivity at all. It's just working on the negatives and stuff. But when people can then actually go and do so like you help that woman drive again, or you help somebody go to a medical appointment where they were fearing it. These are real world tangible outcomes that we're helping people to achieve, not just the fact of I wanted to boost my self-esteem and feel better. This is actually changing things in that way. So going forward, what are you looking forward to doing with IEMT? Who are you looking forward to working with? What's your plan going forward?
Yeah, so I continue. I'm really excited because I do work with a lot of fears and phobias. So I think this is just a fantastic complement to what I'm already doing. And it just seems to fit so nicely. So I'll continue using it like that. And I also am looking forward to working more on the identity piece. You know, I work with a lot of people who will, you know, just like anyone in any therapy, I am not good enough, or I am, you know, that type of identity piece where someone is feeling attached to an identity that's in some way, you know, keeping them from living their best life. And so being able to kind of work with them on that piece as well.
And how did you find the identity stuff in IEMT and how it works?
I found it quite amazing. It was really, really, even when Lori did it on me, I thought, wow, I couldn't believe that, how, because I had no idea what she was doing, and the I and the me, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Part of me, my conscious mind, was like, what's going on? But it all integrated beautifully. And so it's interesting being on the other side of it now and kind of to see how that all comes together. But no, and in my 2 case studies, I found that it worked quite well. And so I think it's a fantastic technique.
If people want to contact you or work with you, do you have a website online? Are you on social medias? What's the best way people can contact you?
I am. So my website is yourheartguide.com.
Yourheartguide.com. Shelly, thank you very much from London all the way to California. And I look forward to seeing you at future events.
I do too, Matt. Cheers. Take care, my friend.
Bye.
Okay, bye.